hear more and more about the need for securitization in Europe to revive. Why isn't the market coming back?
Well, first and foremost, in today's market conditions, the reason the market isn't coming back, unfortunately, as quickly as we'd like it to, is because of the extraordinary and unusual monetary conditions that we have prevailing in the Eurozone at the moment. Everybody understands why the LTRO and the very loose monetary conditions that we have in Europe are necessary, and of course they've been very much welcomed. But unfortunately it makes securitization and indeed also other forms of secured borrowing, like for example covered bonds, seem expensive compared to going to the central bank and getting money directly from the central bank. So unfortunately there is a distortion in the price mechanism in the European financial system at the moment, which is making securitization look expensive. That's the first reason, and that's the main reason that's applying today. On top of that, unfortunately, we also have had a regulatory response to the financial crisis in which securitization was blamed by some people for contributing to the financial crisis. The regulatory response that we've received in Europe has been a very harsh one. At AFME we would say it, in many areas, has gone too far. Clearly there were issues that needed to be sorted out, but not so much in Europe, and in any event they've all been dealt with now. But we are still seeing some quite negative regulatory proposals affecting securitization out there, which haven't been resolved. I'm thinking in particular of the Basel proposals for risk-weighted assets, Solvency II, and also some other features. Now, I think the policymakers are beginning to change their minds, but there's still a little bit of a way to go.
Does securitization have a particular role to play in helping to restore funding for growth, especially here in Italy?
Yes, absolutely it does. In an environment where banks are having to shrink their balance sheets and capital is becoming more expensive and more difficult to find, and the entire financial system is having to go through a long period of deleveraging, securitization is really a perfect product, because what it enables banks to do, when it's properly structured and subject of course to the appropriate regulatory approvals, it enables banks to recycle their capital base. So banks can continue to lend and continue to support the real economy, small business loans, leases, auto loans, things like that. Banks can continue to do that even if at the same time they're having to reduce or keep their balance sheets constant. Securitization is the perfect product for that. So we very much think that the policy objective should be to encourage securitization, not to discourage it.
And do you think investors are ready to return to the market yet?
I think investors are increasingly ready to return to the market. I just came from a panel which discussed a very landmark transaction in Italy over the summer, the Berica transaction, which was a securitization of just under £1 billion SME loans. And I was struck by the strength of the investor demand for that, and also for the breadth and diversity of the countries in which investors were keen to invest in that transaction. Now, there is still a lot more work to be done, and as I said earlier, I think it's very important to remove the shadows cast over the market by potentially negative rules on capital from the Basel Committee and also under Solvency II. But I think investors are beginning to realize that securitization is a very safe product, that it's performed very well in Europe from a credit and a pricing perspective, and that it can offer a very attractive yield.